and a special surprise guest sitting down with us, Josina Anderson, NFL Insider.
Let's go. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, this is great. What an amazing time of year with free agency coming up and the Super Bowl. What do you hear? What are you working on? What's the big story in Josina's world this week?
Well, I think carousel season is still going. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of how Philadelphia is going to fill their head coaching vacancy. I mean, clearly they're focused on Kellen Moore. Just per NFL rules, that cannot be consummated prior to the Super Bowl. I think he has them actually in a good leverage spot, because of the way things have unfolded with the Saints being the last one at the merry-go-round table to fill the vacancy spot. So at this point, if he didn't want it or there was issues with the mesh points in the deal, then, maybe. And then I think what also made it easier is because Cliff Kingsbury, too, decided that he wanted to stay with the Commanders. But that being said, I think it's that. The Jaguars still have a vacant GM position. So obviously with Trent Baalke being fired or mutually parting ways, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the coordinator position with the Raiders just got filled, obviously, with Chip Kelly. But I feel like there's still some offensive coordinator roles out there that you're still looking to do and then go from there. I would say the other thing really quickly is that I do believe that the whole Liam Cohen situation in Jacksonville will have some reverberations throughout the NFL, and I am aware that there are some other tectonic plates in the upper ranks of the NFL that are still getting, kind of talked out, and nothing that I'm, ready to break at this point, but just stuff that I have my eye on, that are always kind of shifting with the upper echelon of the NFL, so to speak. That's the best way to describe it right now.
Well, you've dominated the coaching cycle. I don't think anybody was on top of really the entire NFL beat more than you.
Thank you.
What were you hearing about the Cowboys situation, not only with the hiring of Brian Schottenheimer, the process, which we were all kind of, what in the world are the Cowboys doing, but then the weird divorce with Mike McCarthy?
So I'm going to go back after Mike McCarthy was let go, and then I can go before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say after everything, didn't get finalized in terms of, extending McCarthy and things like that, I think the big thing that people were talking about relative to the Dallas Cowboys was what was going on with Deion Sanders. And I would say relatively early on in that situation, I knew that all of the talk and the hype and the questions that people were having and putting out there, and Deion Sanders' camp himself, I would say, quite frankly, that I knew that that wasn't, happening, pretty early. That's what people were telling me behind the scenes. I think sometimes as an insider, yes, I can put things out there and it's like, ooh, I have this information, right? But at the same time, when you've been doing it a long time, there's not one story that's going to make me, or there's not one story that, so I don't feel this pressure to put out anything, especially if I feel like I knew putting that out there at that time that it would probably not look well, so I just left it alone. But I knew that that's not the direction that they were looking at,
Is Jason Witten a candidate in the future, you think?
Well, I think that you guys know, covering the Cowboys, that Jerry Jones is always going to have affinity for familiarity and people that he knows and respects. And clearly the way that he's dealt with Jason Witten in the past, you can tell that he has that respect there. I think that at the same time, Stephen Jones has tried to do his best to, balance Jerry at times when maybe they don't agree. Or just even internally with the four horsemen or just even people that are below that in the structure. And so I do think that there is a placement of value on, not only just trying to make sure that you have experience, but someone that really does fit. I think you even saw that with the Jets this year in terms of the necessity of not only having someone know what they do, X's and O's wise, but I think part of the reason why it didn't work out with Kellen Moore is because he wanted, someone that has that aura that commands the room more. That is something that I did hear behind the scenes. Now, we can have a debate about whether that's Brian Schottenheimer or not. Yeah. I think that's another conversation. But even with the Jets, even with some of these vacancies, you were hearing, let me just say this, like some of the candidates were saying they were grumbling behind the scenes because they felt like the owners were just focusing on wanting people who could win the press conference. That's something I was hearing over and over again.
Sure.
And so whether you had someone that was like a true leader, especially when you're looking at, for example, like the Jets organization, which I feel like has years of trauma that really needs to be addressed outside of just the dominance of knowing X's and O's. I do feel like some of the owners were paying attention to that and really more so than I would say in the past, because I've been doing this over 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, okay, are you a leader? Can you command the room or what have you? And I do even think, and sorry to talk about the Jets, but I'm trying to make that parallel here, is that I do think that had an impact on even Lance Newmark's candidacy as GM for the Jets as well. So I think in y'all's instance with the Dallas Cowboys, at least behind the scenes with the conversations, there was some balancing of trying to achieve that. Whether they did achieve that with Brian, and I think I feel like that with the Cowboys a lot, because I do think they get some flack where people like, da-da-da-da-da. I feel like they feel like they're doing it, but the question is whether everyone else agrees. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not like this, we're going to go against, the fan base or whatever. I do believe, just in talking to my sources behind the scenes, that you can tell that they really believe that that's the solution. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just that you guys might not agree.
Right. Sure.
Josina, you mentioned the first time I ever saw you, you were at the Combine. I was a scout in the NFL, and I remember you covering the Combine. I'm like, damn, she talks to a lot of people. And, I mean, just people that I knew, and I'm like, I was super impressed.
Thank you.
And I wonder now, over the years, do you find players vent more to you now and complain about things, say, 20 years ago when you first started? I mean, you seem like somebody that a player would say, hey, listen, man, it really sucks where I'm at. And you get a lot of that and maybe have to talk them off the ledge a little bit.
I don't think it's any more. I think that it's the same. You know, I think the main thing is, I'm just going to go to the core word of trust.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just my whole thing of just trying to build trust.
Yeah.
Even if I use the example of the Darren Muji thing, or even the announcement of Aaron Glenn or whoever. I mean, sometimes there's things that I actually do know,
right,
and I'm just not putting it out there. And then when the GM thing happened, and it was like maybe a day or however long it sat there, just the day before I had something that was in advance, I just put it out closer,
right,
because I was just keeping my word.
Right.
If it happens like that and it ends up being dramatic, okay, that's great. But I know that at any, scoop or something that I'm trying to break, it's really not about that one in the moment. I want you to come to me for 10 years.
Right.
So even though it would have been more dramatic had I done that with Aaron Glenn just 2 days before, and I could have, because I knew it. You see what I'm saying? But I know that person is still going to be talking to me and make sure I have it. I would much rather have that.
Nobody has a more effective post than you, because it's not. But it's not all the time. Yeah. But it's like, oh, she just said something, and now you're like, oh, damn, we're in scramble mode here, kind of a thing. So I've always found that you're very effective with how you do it, and you just explained it very, very well.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, I do spend. For the most part, because I'm not always perfect with it, and the fans give me some shit about that too. But I do try to explain it. I was just on someone's show the other day, and I said, there are times when I know it comes across, like it's cryptic or whatever, and I'm not doing that because I don't recognize that. It's really because I'm doing my best to talk around a source,
right? And
not because, as much as the fans or whoever is following, so do the sources, so do the people in the NFL.
No. Yeah.
And as soon as I can put something, I can get a quick test like, and so that's what I'm trying to avoid. And then the other thing is that it's just multitasking. So you might be this, and you have the tweet deck up, and then you're watching TV, and then sometimes you agree and you're like, oh, okay, I probably could have wrote that one better.
I got you.
So sometimes I would say it's like maybe like a 80-20 like that, but it's really more so that I'm really trying to protect, because there are some people who are really sensitive about, like, I have one higher up source who'll always say, just don't say source. Okay, so then I'll be like, my understanding is, but that makes that person feel better. So it's almost like you have 3,000 relationships, and you're trying to manage how you like it put out, how you like it put out, how you like it put out. And so that's kind of what's going on through my brain sometimes when I'm just trying to talk around things, and the family like, why is he talking? Oh my God, is something? I'm like, no, but he's happy.
Player personnel guys and gals love to talk. Just don't tell them you heard it from me. Just don't tell. Hey,
the phrasing seems like it's so important.
I heard something. Hey, you didn't hear it from me.
It's Josina Anderson here with you on 105 through the Fan, home of the Cowboys. By the way, traditional radio, not a podcast, not the Pat McAfee show, so the S word's still not approved for us. But it's all good. It's all good. We love having you. I'm sure you're familiar with the timeline, but the Dak original injury, the catastrophic lower leg, Cowboys do the next contract after that. Okay, then you're going into this year. They do the new contract, and then he gets hurt again. So I say all that to ask you, have the Cowboys ever wavered on a commitment to Dak Prescott, from your understanding? I mean, has this all been like, hey, this is our guy, franchise quarterback, let's do the deal, or have there been real considerations of doing something else?
I feel like sometimes it's like, it's like we'll see how it works. So we'll see how it works out. I think that before Dak did this last contract, I feel like in my conversations I could already tell where they understood where it was going to fall or where it was likely to fall, just based on the slotting of the APYs of all of the quarterback deals that got before him. So you knew that there was going to be a quarterback contract that was already going to be approaching, the $60 million mark. So it's not like that would have been a surprise. I think it's less about a question of whether you're going to consummate at that level and whether you feel like Dak is the one that you want to give it to. What I think I was more so surprised with the Brian Schottenheimer thing relative to picking him and landing on him, when we can have another conversation about that, because I actually have a strong opinion on the Deion Sanders thing. But I feel like the over kind of leaning into, okay, Dak knows, and we don't want to disrupt that. I just don't know. I get it that he, comes from a lineage, and obviously he's been around and all the things that Jerry Jones said at that press conference. But there's also a lot of talent out there, too. And I just feel like you guys are from the Big D. You guys are from Dallas. I just wanted something a little grander for you guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? I feel like that's the franchise that you really – it's not that you should overlean into that over the substance. That's not what I'm saying. But I do feel like – you that could have been had a little bit
the word
more,
continuity and familiarity, that seems to always be coming up here. So with Deion, because that's exactly what we liked. Like, he would have rattled some cages. He would have been different.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to tee up for what do you feel about the Deion?
So I feel like I would have had Deion either in Dallas or Las Vegas.
Okay.
And I could see where the Deion marriage could have maybe might have been too combustible. I was concerned about that. And so I was prepared to write an article saying that here's why I actually feel like Deion Sanders works better for Las Vegas, because I thought he would have been a perfect counterbalance for Tom Brady over-imposing, which I do think is a concern for some of the people that it ended up not working with, which is why I felt like I knew Ben Johnson wasn't going to go there. And sometimes, I've been covering the league for 20 years, whether you want to call it women's intuition, whether you want to just call it instinct, because that's I feel like that's my job, is not only, it's like knowing people, getting a feel, like I'm picking up on your energy, I pick up on your energy. That's what I do. And even though I haven't never really talked to Ben Johnson like that direct, I've seen him on TV, I've interacted with him, and I'm just looking at him and I'm like, that doesn't fit. I could just feel it, you know what I'm saying? And I even wrote that in the article. I was like, just looking at him, he looks more, have like beta qualities, and not that that's bad or anything. It's just that I felt like Tom Brady is really going to more insert himself here. And if you have any concern about that, that would actually potentially be a sticking point. Now, as it relates to Dallas, I felt like, man, that would have been like the greatest show on earth. I feel like because Jerry's gone so long without you guys of getting back to the championship game, and at this point where he is in terms of his age, this was the time to be like, you know what, maybe I need to self-examine a little bit and be willing to just give a little bit of that more up for the purpose of attaining the goal that has been so elusive. And from what I hear from behind the scenes, there was some back and forth in the upper ranks, I'll just say, as far as what should have been. And let's not be naive. I mean, Deion has a contract that's open with the Colorado, and he's smart there too. But yeah. So to say the least, I would have liked to see it from an entertainment standpoint.
I think your guy's telling our guy that we got to go.
Well, one Super Bowl question for you.
Yeah.
Whose defense do you trust more in a big game like this, Steve Spagnuolo's or Dick Fangio's?
That's a really great question. I think that you can't go without saying that you don't notice the Vic Fangio effect on the Philadelphia defense this year, particularly after the way that Philadelphia just went off the train tracks a couple years ago when they fired what's his name, Sean, whatever his name is.
Desai.
Yeah.
Dick Fangio, Sean Desai.
I got too many things going on in my head. It's not because it's a great last name, but. And then Steve Spagnuolo, I mean, gosh, you have to give him a lot of respect. I feel like I'm still going to say Philadelphia Eagles, because I feel like there's just this. You know why? Because if I'm going to go energy-wise, right?
Yeah, energy.
I just feel like there's this, like, Oppo energy that I feel not going in the Chiefs' favor right now. I don't know how to. I don't know how to describe that, but I feel that, and I see that the officials just put out a statement today or something like that.
Oh, you think we're going to get an overcorrection?
I feel like there's that energy because people just keep, talking about it. I feel like, and it's not because it's just like we just want to have this empty rhetoric. I think that the fans, you have to give people credit. I feel like they see some things that are not right at times. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the NFL got they made their money off the Taylor Swift thing. That's why the cap went up, right? So you got that.
Yes, ma'am.
And were you guys at opening night?
No, we
flew in last night, so we missed that.
Okay, well, the Philadelphia Eagles, when everyone was there for opening night, it was this ton of energy. It was packed. And then when the Chiefs came in an hour later, 75% of the room left. And I think because people were just tired, not so over-familiar. So you only needed to be there for the first part of opening night.
Hey, speaking of energies and everything, which of us do you think has the most alpha energy of the four of us?
I don't want to answer that.
You don't want to. I mean, we won't take it personal.
Zach will not take it personal.
Yeah, Wolchuk will not take it personal if you don't think he's an alpha.
I'm not answering that. All of you are wonderful, men. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Josina.
Even the betas and
I appreciate it.
Josina Anderson, how do we get your content? What do we do?
You're incredible.
You go to www.theexhibitconcept.com to learn more about my platform. And obviously, the YouTube handle has the same name, @theexhibitconcept, even though most of my content does get released through Twitter right now. But the show is sponsored by Body Armor. We're adding Era Green and some other sponsors
there
as well.
You go.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.
You're
the best, Josina. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There
I
she goes.
appreciate it.
Josina Anderson with you here on
Thank
your
you.
home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.